We now turn to a more crucial national conversation. Our discussion this morning focuses on national development, analysing gaps in regional development commissions in Nigeria. Now, these commissions were established to correct long-standing regional imbalances by delivering targeted development in infrastructure, agriculture, security, health and human capital. Now, in some parts of the country, the model appears to be gaining traction. The Southwest Development Commission, for instance, has announced plans to link all 6 states by rail, a move that could unlock trade, jobs and mobility across the region. However, in the Northwest, the picture is far less encouraging. The Commission there is yet to become fully operational, lacking a complete management structure and still awaiting statutory funding. Now, reports of internal leadership disagreements have further slowed progress, raising concerns about accountability and institutional discipline. This raises critical questions. Are these commissions properly structured to deliver development? What reforms are needed to make them effective? And how do we prevent them from becoming another layer of bureaucracy? Now, joining us to examine these issues is Salihu Tanko Yakasai, a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you very much, Hajia Hawa and Hajia Halima. Thank you very much for having me.
You're
Absolutely. Now, we've seen these regional commissions be actualized, but not necessarily actualized in practice. Now, to start us off, why did Nigeria adopt the Regional Development Commission model in the first place? And what gap was it meant to fill that existing ministries and agencies could not?
Well, thank you very much for that, for the topic in its entirety. I think it's something, I'm sure from the feedback that you've gotten from different of your viewers, so far what I've seen is that the main reason for the creation of the development commissions, particularly with the first one, the Niger Delta Development Commission, is to address these gaps which you've highlighted. And I think over the years, they've tried to do that, in their own little capacity. But I think the fundamental reason, which is regional integration, regional coordination and bringing together the different states within the region to see how they can work together, in collaboration with the state governments and also the federal government to fast-track development, fast-track regional development per se, I think has not been met. This is, I think, for me, one of the fundamental reasons for setting it up. And unfortunately, that has not been met. I think another problem that I see generally with the development commissions is lack of trust. As I sat down listening to different contributions from different leaders, almost each and every comment that has been made so far, and of course from the general comments you hear whenever you talk about these development commissions, is the fact that people don't have trust in them. There's no trust in the system. There's no trust that the real mandate that they were created to achieve is not being met. And this is, I think, largely because of, you can put it as the failure of the first development commission, which is the NDDC. And of course, the second one, which is the Northeast Development Commission, which also has not really translated into this, into the main reason why it was established. It has become, they become more or less like handing out. I remember I saw a comment yesterday because I wrote an article about it a few days back, and I saw a comment yesterday that someone was complaining that he went into a mosque and saw Northeast Development Commission praying mat. So you begin to wonder if they are being deliberate in terms of building public trust, because you cannot achieve anything if there is no trust, particularly in the governance system. So they are not being deliberate in trying to build trust so that they can have the support of the people, to deliver on their mandate, And I think if they can at least build trust by showing the results on ground, by being open and deliberate in terms of their programs, in terms of their agenda, I think people generally will accept them and possibly support to see that they succeed. So I think largely they have deviated from the core mandate that they were established to achieve. They have lost the trust of the people and the general public, more or less. And unfortunately, I think if this is not addressed, any other thing, will not matter. Of course, like a lot of people have seen, out of the new ones that were created, for instance, particularly the Southwest Development Commission, to a large extent, then Southeast Development Commission, and to add to this too is possibly the North Central Development Commission. From what I have been monitoring and seeing, you can see that they are off on the right track. Yeah.
Now, speaking of the Southwest, Development Commission, with the announcement of an MOU for a rail link that we just saw.
Yeah.
What do you think the biggest problem the Northwest Commission is facing, especially when it comes to execution? We've seen reports that, and you did a write-up on it as well. We've seen a report that so far, structurally, as well as funding-wise, the commission is non-existent per se. So is the problem fundamentally a political will, or does it reflect deeper structural neglect of the Northwest within federal planning?
Thank you very much, Alahajiawa, for that. I think, first of all, I have to commend that of the Southwest Development Commission in collaboration with the Southwest Governors Forum and, of course, the Dawn Commission for the coordination, the synergy between these three important bodies in that region, because it clearly, they hit the ground running because there's coordination among themselves. There's that synergy to be able to achieve what they have achieved so far. They were among the last to be established, but you can see they are trying to be ahead of the other development commissions, including the NDDC and the Northeast Development Commission that have
been there for a long time.
Yeah, so you can see that coordination, that is what is giving them an edge. So I think they have to be commended and they have to be encouraged to continue. That's one. And secondly, when you come back to the Northwest, which seems to be the one struggling the most of all the development commissions, even though it was created before the Southwest and that of the North Central and Southeast, but these other ones have overtaken the Northwest Development Commission because of a few reasons, you understand. And I discovered this in the course of my investigation when I saw the news of what the Southwest Development Commission has rolled out, and I was curious to know, what is that the commission within my zone? What is it trying to do? What I haven't had anything concrete, from them. So based on my investigation, I realized a number of issues, fundamental issues. You talked about political will, and I think that is definitely the major one. And the first one that I discovered is the lack of management structure. I think since the establishment, the president signed it into law, signed the commission's bill into law, I think in July 2024. That's almost a year and a half, And of course, later on, the MD was appointed, the management board was appointed with the chairman, but we later saw a letter flying with some suggested names as the executive directors, And these executive directors, first of all, are many. I think you're talking about 10 or 12, I can't recall exactly the number of proposed executive directors, which is too many, for a region that has just 7 states, And as such, it generated controversy, obviously, because it has been leaked. People that had political interest in trying to see they appointed some of these executive directors, started some pushback, and that led to the stalling of proper setting up of the management team, which starts with the executive directors. If you don't have executive directors, you also don't have head of departments, you also don't have deputy directors, the entirety of the structure, management structure, up to today is lacking. You understand? That's problem number one. Problem number two, you've highlighted, you have alluded to that, which is the issue of funding. You understand? And I think this is not just peculiar to the Northwest Development Commission, but also the rest of the new development commissions, which is in 2025, and this is not just also, confined to the development commissions, but also generally in the MDAs, which is lack of funding. The federal government has not released funding for its agencies for 2025. Is not a hidden knowledge. Everyone knows that, and everyone is feeling it. And this has really stalled the takeoff, particularly of this new development commission. So generally, they don't have funding. They don't have a penny to carry out any meaningful policy implementation
so no
program.
Funding, no commission.
No funding, no managerial commission. And then the last one, just to highlight three. And the last one is the internal crisis between the board and the MD of the commission, which is the Northwest Development Commission. For whatever reasons, I'm not here to apportion blame but there seems to be a leadership gap from the region, starting with the governors of the region, because they are the leaders of the region, the governors of the 7 states, which the commission is supposed to work with in order to achieve its mandate. There is also lack of leadership from the National Assembly members. The zone has the speaker, who is the number 3 citizen, right? He has the deputy speaker, deputy senate president, who is also, a critical stakeholder, So I think this third issue is really a problem because they cannot come together and ensure there is synergy. We do not hear any similar in-house fighting, among other development commissions. There is synergy. If you go to the Southeast, what Mark Okoye is doing is amazing. He has the support of all the leaders, the stakeholders, the governors, the members of the National Assembly. I've seen a program which was, I think, anchored by UNDP, United Nations Development Program for the Southeast. I have seen what they presented to the president for the establishment of the Southeast Investment, is it forum or what it is? So basically, you can see how that lack of synergy in the Northwest Development Commission is stalling it from fully taking off. And I think these 3 issues, there are others that I've discovered, for lack of time, I wouldn't want to go into details.
All right.
But these 3 issues are the problem for me.
All right, taking from the 3 issues you've listed, I'll pick up the management structure, which is very important in the development commissions. And based on the article you wrote concerning the Northwest Development Commission, you stated facts about, no directors for infrastructure, finance or planning, and, no staff to run the basic operations or implement these proposals. And then you pointed out that the managing director is the only substantive appointee. Yeah. Now, from a governance standpoint, what does the absence of executive directors and departmental heads mean for accountability and project execution?
You can't run an agency with one man. It can work. He cannot be everywhere. He cannot be the sole person that is in charge of development of policies, the programs. He has to reach out to travel across the 6-7 states in the region. He has to, meet other partners, because also we have other partners, not just the governors or the National Assembly. We have other development partners, that international NGOs that are all stakeholders in trying to set the Development Commission running. So as an individual, you cannot run a massive agency that is responsible for the coordination and development of over 60 million people in the Northwest region. You cannot run it alone. You have to have executive directors that will assist you in making decisions. You have to have other positions within the commission that will help you in the implementation of these policies, because the main focus or reason for the management team is the implementation of the policies, which will be approved by the board. So the board has the power to approve the framework of the agency. I'm sure they probably are doing that, but in terms of implementing anything that the board approves lies with the management team. And so how can one individual be able to do that? And I think for me the solution is simple. I know we love talking about problems, but I also love talking about solutions.
Absolutely.
And the solution is simple, which is that the Northwest governors, particularly the chairman of the Governors Forum, that is the governor of Katsina, His Excellency Tukurata, needs to sit with other stakeholders, the National Assembly leaders, that is the Speaker and Deputy Senate President Barrow. They have to sit and probably in collaboration with the rest of the governors and say, okay, this thing has been stolen for so many months. Why don't we come together and take up this issue of management team and see how we can resolve it? And I think largely for me, I think the reason, the bottleneck is the fact that who appoints who, you understand? But as far as I'm concerned, the National Assembly more or less has been the ones leading the appointments so far, of the boards, of the MD and so on. I think it's about time that also the governors step in. Probably, each state should nominate an executive director so that you can have the input of the governors. Probably they are holding back because they have not been carried along in the formation of the appointees so far. So probably they also need to be carried along because Nigeria how it is, it's give and take. So then the governors also have the opportunity to say, okay, let's nominate the executive directors, and they have an agreement and then submit it to the president for approval so that we can have a management team ready. Once you have that, it's easy for the management team to get deputy directors, head of departments, on secondment, and within a short period of time, you will have a full management structure up and running. I think this is the solution to the managerial issue that we have in the commission.
All right, now looking at one of the reasons that these regional commissions are dragging their feet for them to be actualized is one point that you mentioned, funding. Now, you made mention of a question of why would you create a commission without funding them? So if you're not going to fund them, what is the whole point? But one thing we need to make point of is Nigeria, the biggest thing that we do face is transparency and accountability when it comes to it. So do you think that just because people are not held accountable for what they need to do, that is why these kind of things are stalled and priority is not being put on it to make sure that they're executed properly? Because if these regional development commissions do work properly, it will definitely uplift each and every region according to what their issues or tailored to their issues as well.
Yeah, I think you are merging two important points, Ajawa, which is the federal government's inability to release funding, and this is, like I said, across board, across all the MDAs, it's one thing on one hand, and then the issue of accountability, which is another thing.
I would say when it comes to accountability on the funding side, nobody is stepping up and saying, federal government, you've not provided for this. Going back to back and making sure that, yes, it has been done. And aside from that, accountability, making sure that this commission is put together and what is being done needs to be done properly.
So that's what I said. These are two fundamental issues, and they are not related more or less, because who is going to go to the president among the ministers and the MDAs and say, why haven't you released funding for us? They will grumble. I know of a minister that complained that since December he has not released one kobo, to
the ministry.
For the ministry, and he can only complain behind the scenes. Will he go to the president and say, why haven't you released funding for us? And then clearly we just recently saw that the federal government itself is saying that 70% the capital expenditure for 2025 is being moved to 2026, and even the 30% we have not seen it on ground. So you see, this particular one is there. Like I said, is a national problem that this government has to find a way to address, because we carried the same problem from 2024 to 2025. You know, I've never seen anywhere in the country where like multiple budgets, not just one, not two, not three, not four. We are carrying multiple budgets and still the implementation is nothing to write home about. You understand? So the issue of the presidency or the president releasing funding for the MDAs is one thing. The only thing that can be done on this one is for the public to keep putting pressure on the president to do so. And I think for this particular issue, before I jump to the accountability one, the presidency is really confusing me. Because on one hand, just I think last August or thereabout, the president himself said that we have met our revenue target.
Absolutely.
There is also the issue of subsidy removal. They have not been paying subsidy, and we have not been seeing the money that is being saved from subsidy removal. Where is that money? So how can you, on one hand, be talking about massive revenue and savings from subsidy for subsidy
on the
removal,
other hand, taking loans.
And taking loans, you know? So, but on ground, we are not seeing all this money. It's not translating into development on the ground. It is very confusing, and I just don't know how they want to solve this problem. You know, how they want to explain this issue to Nigerians, and that links me to the issue of accountability. So if the presidency itself is not being accountable to us with this major flip-flopping of policies, understand? Then how do you expect any MDA to be accountable on any other issues that is being handled by the MDAs? So the issue of accountability is not just for the development commissions; it's across board. And I think for to a large extent, the newly established development commissions, we don't even have to talk about accountability, because we have not even entrusted them with any kobo to ask them to account for it.
All right, let's look at implementations, and most of the things they would say is proposals are being stuck in paper only, but when it comes to actualizing them and seeing the realities of ground, and we know that the Northwest Development and Commission drafted a proposal across infrastructure, agriculture, healthcare, and basic things that the people in the communities are clamoring for. So if you look at it, what specific conditions must be in place for these proposals to move from paper to reality? Yes,
like I said earlier on, there has to be synergy. We are not talking about something that has been done even within the level of the development commissions. We have already seen what is coming out from the Southwest Development Commission. I am optimistic that it is not just a blueprint, but they are going to implement it, and I can assure you that we'll come back to this platform, on Trust TV, and discuss about how they've started implementation, because I know they are serious, and I know they mean what they say, you understand? So there's the need, you understand, to have that synergy for each of these development commission to work. That's solution number one. The second thing is that they have to be innovative. They have to be creative. Because apart from the statutory funding that is coming from the federal government, apart from donations or contributions from the state government, there is also an open door for them to seek for partners. They can go to anywhere on the globe, Singapore, US, Europe. They can go to anywhere in the globe and say, okay, we have this idea, we have this plan, and feasibility study can be done. These partners can look at the proposal that you have, whatever you intend to do, and say, okay, this is viable. We are willing to come in and fund it. It's there. You don't have to wait for the government. Of course, they need the seed funding to kickstart some of these policies and programs, but largely they have been given the mandate to seek for funding elsewhere, and it is there, readily available. All they want to see is a commitment of the Commission on Honor. So they have to be innovative and creative and reach out to so many partners that are willing to come in and help them execute. Because Nigeria is so blessed and so rich that people they know what the potential of Nigeria is, and they are willing and ready to come and partner and work with Nigeria. All they need is the enabling environment, which these commissions need to provide, and so on and so forth. So, to a large extent, these two, I think, for me, I don't want to bring out so many things, but at least if they can just work with these two and develop a framework or plan of blueprint of what they want to achieve, just take, for instance, the Southwest Development Commission plan for the Railway Corporation. It's in partnership with Nigeria Railway Corporation. Nigeria Railway Corporation has told the whole country that anybody that is interested in taking over these rail tracks that we have that are not being put to use, come forward, we are willing to work with you, and nobody is doing that. What stops the Northwest Development Commission or the governors of the Northwest region from saying, okay, we want to take over the Kaduna-Abuja train that has been having series of issues, get funding for it, take over the management, and it's a profitable route. We have the Kaduna train that will soon be completed and put to use. We have the Kano-Maradi international train that will also be put to use. Why are they waiting? What are they waiting for? When the Southwest Commission is taking over infrastructure, you also have the right to take over these rail tracks and put it to use, not just for the movement of passengers, but also the movement of goods. You can take containers from Apapa and bring them to Kano using these rail tracks. It is there. It is profitable.
All right, now let's look at the future. At this point, if nothing changed in the next year, what are the real economic and social costs of the Northwest falling further behind than other regions? And let me add another one. If there is a change, what does success look like to you in the Northwestern region? So I would like to hear both sides of the equation.
So the first one that you asked, which is if these things don't work out as they should, I don't even want to imagine because it would be catastrophic. Because the region keeps falling back, particularly on the issue of insecurity, and also issue of security is part of the mandate of the commission. But each and every we have seen from insecurity in states like Katsina and Zamfara and some part of Sokoto, we are now seeing insecurity in other states that we have not been seeing before, like Kano, which has not really had any issue of insecurity. Even today, this morning, I read a report of an attack in Gorzo, in Lakwaya, So we are seeing more attacks in Kano. We are seeing more attacks in Kebbi. You remember where the 25 school Muslim girls were kidnapped. So if this trend of rise in insecurity continues, and then not just the Development Commission, but other stakeholders, including the governors, are not doing anything, including the federal government, are not doing anything to at least put a stop to it, then how do you expect to see any major wins or gains from the Development Commission? That's why I said I don't even want to think, I don't even pray that we get to see that. I hope that these things will be addressed. On the other hand, if it succeeds
in a perfect Northwest region,
we will see the potential of the Northwest region is incredible, is it almost? I keep telling people that the rest of the rich regions in the country, for instance, the Southwest, which is more or less Lagos and Ogun, the rest of the states are just tagging along. If you look at the Niger Delta or the South also, majorly the state is the rivers, and then a few other states like Akwa Ibom and so on and so forth. But if you want to talk about real potential, it lies with the Northwest. And I'm not saying this because I'm from the Northwest. I'm saying it because it is there. It is not just only the food. We contribute the most in terms of food production in the country, which means we can feed, if properly done, we can feed the nation. I gave an example recently that the arable land in Egypt, entire Egypt, Egypt is the biggest producer of like 10 crops in Africa. 10 different crops in Africa. Egypt is the biggest producer with just an arable landmass of 3.5 million. While Kano alone, you understand, is almost the same, has the same arable land size with Egypt. But of course, we know where Kano is. It has many more dams than Egypt has. You know, Egypt is farming its own agriculture with irrigation farming from just the Nile River. While we have many rivers in Kano, we have rainfall. You know, the rainfall, there's basically no rainfall in Egypt, but we have like 4 months of rainfall in Kano, which means you can do the rainy season farming, you can do the dry season farming, and so on and so forth. You can have all year round farming. I'm just talking about agriculture in Kano State. And almost each and every, if you go to Jigawa, the potential of Jigawa to be the agricultural hub of the country is there. You go to Zamfara, you go to, Kebbi, you understand? So the potential of the region is enormous, and I think this is why I celebrated the creation of the Northwest Development Commission, because it is like meant to coordinate and synergize this development so that you use the comparative advantage of each state and see how do you harness these potentials and let it become right. How do you integrate them so that you can see development across different sectors, particularly the thematic areas of the Northwest Development Commission, like education, health, security, human development, and so on and so forth. So the potentials, to be honest, are enormous, different fields. The market is there. Lagos talking about being the economic hub of the country, but I know of products that are cheaper in Kano than in Lagos, even though they are produced in Lagos. I know that Lagosians sometimes come to Kano to buy these things cheaper and take back their country.
It is beautiful to hear all of this. It is inspiring to hear all of this, to see where we can be. Yeah. But do you think at this point, with the way Nigeria is and the way Nigerians are and our political scene, the government as well, when this commission is fully put together, will it be done properly, or will it still be, as we are used to, something of a money-grabbing space where there's no accountability, there's no transparency, and the lack of understanding and putting the people first as well?
Yeah, I think it can be achieved, and to be honest, I think because I've looked at what they've done so far. I know that very soon one of the things that they're going to do, the Northwest Development Commission, is to ask each state across these different thematic areas of the commission, to put forward, by experts, their needs, what needs to be done, and how these states, can link whatever it is that they need across the thematic areas, how they can put it together and have one, solid framework of how to implement it. I have seen the plans that they are putting in place, in the course of my investigation, and I can tell you that it's looking really bright. You understand? I think the only thing lacking is the political will for this to happen. And I think with a program like yours shedding light into these issues, and I think it will get to the right ears. And I'm really hoping that this gets to the ears of the governors, the Northwest governors. Anybody that is listening to me that has access to these governors. Fortunately, I know some of the governors watch Trust TV. If they are listening to this program, they need to show leadership. They cannot sit and wait and see this commission, falling apart, and then, they're just doing hands back. They have to take leadership. They have to step forward. They have to, hold closed-door meetings. It's not even about coming out and saying this is why, this is that. No, have closed-door meetings with anybody that can help in the full implementation of the mandates of this Northwest Development Commission, and I think it's doable if they're going to have the political will to do that.
All right.
Thank you very much, Salihu Tanko Yakasai, for analyzing what it means to have a fully functioning Regional Development Commission.
Thank you, Hawa.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Memena.